Oh my, I am cooking a barbecue, which is lovely, and here, and I love barbecues, and it's the summer, and why not? But as we all know, barbecues means summer, and summer means hot weather, and hot weather means training in hot weather. And before you criticise the barbecue, remember, everybody does it differently. This is just the way we do it. I know some people are like really protective over the way that the meat is cooked and what meat's cooked, and this is our way. So here are the bare facts as I see it. If you're gonna have a summer, you're gonna have to train in summer. There's no way of avoiding it. So what I'm gonna do for you today is I'm going to break down what happens to your body in the heat before you even train, some tips and tricks that you can use just before you're gonna train, and of course, ways to deal with during training and how to recover afterwards. But now we need to train in the heat. Honestly, I know I say this often, but the body is just the most amazing piece of machinery. It spends so much time thermoregulating, which is to say, when you're too cold, it tries to warm you up, and when you're too hot, it tries to cool you down. And actually, it works in such a narrow bandwidth of around 36.5 degrees C to 38 degrees C. So 1.5 degrees between hypothermia and hypothermia, around about anyway, which is mad when you think about it. But before we get into what the body does when you're out training and how you can prepare for the heat, I think it would be good to touch on just some of the things the body generally does when it gets hotter before you're even training, and then how can you help your body be better at dealing with heat. So, have you ever noticed that your heart rate is higher in the heat, at rest and when exercising? And have you felt like you can't control it as easily? Well, here's why. In the heat, your body does a number of things to help it cool down. Take my arms and legs, for example. It sends the veins closer to the skin's surface and dilates them, which just means makes them wider, and it's to help cool the blood. But with dilated veins comes a lower blood pressure, so the heart has to pump more to get the same amount of blood around the body, which is one reason for your increased heart rate. And do you sweat more? Well, sweat's another clever way for the body to cool down. It sends water to the skin's surface to be cooled by the air around it and therefore cool the body. But reduced fluid, which is dehydration, makes the blood harder to pump around the body. There's another reason for a higher heart rate. So, is there anything we can do to prepare the body for the heat? Well, yes, if Wim Hof is to be believed. Wim is many things. He's the Iceman, he's a desert marathoner, a master of his own body, but what he also believes is that you can train your body to be better at regulating your internal core temperature, and it's actually quite simple to do. Small, safe, regular shocks to your body wake up your blood vessels' ability to constrict and dilate to control the temperature of your body. So, cold showers, even if it's the last 15 seconds of each shower, are such a good idea. Or saunas, they're great ways to teach your body to regulate temperature more easily. It's the very essence of acclimatization, getting used to the climate. Also, small but regular exposures to the warm weather help the body get used to it. The body really is just honestly the most amazing thing at adapting to its surroundings and the stimulus you put on it. So I've actually come back in time a little bit to before the ride because I wanted to touch on how I prepare for any type of exercise. And the first thing is, in the summer, I tend to wear just single layers. I don't wear anything underneath because layers trap layers of air in between them and then heat you up. So the more I can do to cool down, the better. And I know some of these points will be completely obvious to you, but I'm just putting them all out there. Also, I make sure that my hydration is on point all day, before the exercise and during. So I drink a lot of electrolyte drinks. I do drink water as well, but I steer clear of anything like fizzy drinks, and I only have one caffeinated drink a day so that I don't dehydrate. And if I'm running, I tend to wear a visor as well to keep the sun off my face. But this is perhaps the most fascinating point of all, is sometimes I'll take a buff and I will soak it and put it around my neck, because the science is fascinating around this. Actually, your brain interprets how hot you are based on the temperature of the blood that comes through the jugular vein up into it. So, if you can keep that blood cool by having this round your neck at all times wet, then your brain is interpreting the blood as a little bit cooler and makes you think you're a little bit cooler. So it's all about how you feel, but that is a fascinating concept. I know it sounds ridiculous that you might wear a buff out running in heat, but it is a thing. Although, full honesty, I almost never do that, but I'm giving you the full options.
And then you get out training, and yeah, I know I'm on the bike, but this could be substituted for running or even swimming. And there's a few things that you've got to tweak when it gets warmer, for sure.
The first thing to consider whilst out training is your hydration strategy, and I consider two main things. When you sweat, you don't just lose water, you lose electrolytes like sodium and potassium, so just drinking water doesn't replace all you've lost. I would consider an electrolyte drink to make sure you're putting what you're losing back in. Also, have a set routine to take small sips. I usually take a few mouthfuls every 10 minutes because your body can't absorb large quantities in one go. So a little and often approach to hydration is recommended.
And you could do what I'm doing on my current run. I don't know, some of the things I'm about to say are going to sound pretty obvious, but I'm going to say them anyway just in case. So it is currently just before 6 AM and I've got up to do the hour, and it is really nice and cool, not too hot for her either. So I'm making the best of the situation by getting the training done early. And the opposite to that is, of course, wait until the sun's gone down, wait until the heat has gone from the day, and get out later on in the evening. Can you tell how hard this is for me? I'm struggling this morning. Turn around, come on Winnie, turn around. Halfway point. Whew. As you can probably see, the other thing I've done is I've worn as little clothing as possible to go on this run, because I'm taking advantage of the fact that the sun isn't up, I can't get burnt, and therefore I can get as much skin exposed to the elements so that I can sweat and cool down as possible. And even if you go out in the hot daytime, it is still sensible to wear loose fitting clothing, because tight fitting clothing stops your body's ability to sweat and then have that sweat evaporate and you cool down. So even if you have to wear long sleeves or whatever because it's sunny and you don't want to get burnt, I would still recommend loose fitting clothing, something cottony. But like I say, in this instance when the sun's not quite up yet and it's cool, I get as much skin out as possible, you know, within the realms of legality, to allow me to cool down properly. And my last piece of advice for exercising in the heat, and it's probably the most important one, is lower your expectations. Your body is not going to be able to do what it could do when it's not hot. That's just physiology. And what I mean by that is, you know, your resting heart rate is going to be higher, so your working heart rate is going to be higher. You're not going to be able to run the same paces for the same heart rate. You're not going to be able to run in zone 2 as easily. It's going to feel harder and it's going to feel frustrating, but it's physiology. It's your body's way of trying to keep you cool. So once you've accepted that and understand it, then running in zone 2 at a lower pace, which is essentially what I'm doing now, becomes okay, because your body's trying to help you out. Think about it. It's only our ego that's telling us we should run a certain pace or we should run in zone 2 for a certain heart rate. That's the ego talking. Take over your ego, lower your expectations, and run happy still. Happy is one of those words that you use loosely when you're running, because this one has been very hard on the legs, maybe because it's so early. Not all runs feel good, but all runs are good and do good. But to see how I recover, we need to go back to the studio, because I've got a school trip today. I'm going to be out of action all day, which is exciting.
School trip done. I was at Thorpe Park all day in the blazing sun and the queues, so not great for recovery after my run this morning. But I will talk to you just very quickly about how I recover after hot sessions and hot training sessions, whether that be bike, whether that be run. And actually swim can be counted because you can still sweat in the water while you're working out. So my recovery doesn't really change a hell of a lot. All I try to do is, and sorry if this is a bit too graphic, is I try to make my wee as clear as possible, as quick as possible. But again, as I mentioned earlier, I don't do it by drinking lots and lots straight after the run. I just try the small amounts and often approach for the rest of the day, for the next few hours, whenever you train, after that, to make sure that your wee is clear and not golden syrup. And the only other things are a good stretch and a good cold shower, and I'm usually good to go. But that's just my way of recovering. I have an electrolyte drink rather than water as well, as I alluded to earlier, because when you sweat, you don't just lose water, you lose electrolytes as well, and that's got to go back in. I really hope that's helped. I've thrown all the ideas at you that I have, all the things that I know about heat training and I know about the body and why the body works like it does. And if at the very least this has just put your mind at ease about why is it harder to train in the summer, why is your heart rate higher, why are you not able to stay in zone 2, then it is just your physiology. Trust me, keep plugging away and your body will catch up, it will adapt. As I keep saying time and time again, your body is just amazing. It makes changes all of the time to try and make you better, and training in heat is just one of those. That's one of those things that's gonna happen. You're gonna get better. Now, coming up on the channel, I've got 5 weeks until my iron distance triathlon. Training is going well. Weeks are ticking away quickly, but I'm feeling pretty good. Here is a video that I'm gonna let YouTube recommend for you. And here is the subscribe button in case you've watched this all the way to the end and you haven't yet clicked subscribe. You can now. See you Sunday.